Welcome to this episode of MoGuard TV. My name is Tech Sergeant Joseph Swanson, and I'm a recruiter for the Missouri Air National Guard. In this episode, a Missouri National Guard artillery battery brings out the big guns for a Memorial Day event in Kansas City, supporting the percussion section of the city's symphony. We also bring you 3 stories about guardsmen performing their annual training, including an infantry regiment, support battalions, and a bomb wing. In our first story, guardsmen from the 1st of the 129th Field Artillery, Battery D, helped the Kansas City community honor the fallen during Memorial Day events.
For the past 14 years, Kansas City has commemorated Memorial Day weekend with its celebration at the station, a 2-hour concert performed by the Kansas City Symphony. This year, the event's organizers planned for an attendance of 50,000 people. The free concert is performed at the city's Union Station and encompasses the north lawn of the World War I Museum and Memorial. Missouri National Guardsmen from the 1st of the 129th Field Artillery Delta Battery, based in Independence, Missouri, volunteered to man 3 cannons for the performance.
Delta Battery has supported the celebration at the station for the past 10 years. And we are here more or less to shoot the cannons in sync with the city symphony.
Well, Delta Battery is known as Truman's Own. Harry S. Truman was our commander during World War I. We come down to remember those that went before us. It's an honor to be out here to be able to represent not only the field artillery of the state of Missouri, but absolutely Harry S. Truman.
The 3 cannons were positioned overlooking Union Station at the base of the Liberty Memorial.
This is a 75 millimeter pack howitzer. They have fired rounds in the past during World War II and the Korean War. We mainly just use them for ceremonial purposes now.
During the concert, the cannons become percussion instrument crowd pleasers for the Kansas City Symphony, especially during the final performance of composer Peter Tchaikovsky's 1812 Overture.
The 1812 Overture, they started that when we started coming here 10 years ago, and they thought it would be neat to get the boom, boom, boom out of the boom, boom, boom. And it's just got really big in the last 10 years.
Lieutenant McCampbell can now say that she played the cannon in the Kansas City Symphony Orchestra.
It was amazing. I'm very, very happy that I volunteered to come out this evening and experience all of it. I look forward to coming back next year.
Missouri National Guardsmen also volunteered in support of the Memorial Day ceremony held at the World War I Museum and Memorial by organizing a 10K ruck march on the Liberty Memorial grounds.
This weekend's more than just to kick off the summer, getting on the water and barbecue, and this is time to pay respects and remember those fallen heroes.
We want to keep that memory alive. If we just turn it into a go to the lake holiday, then we forget why we're really doing it.
This is just the opportunity to come out and remember those fallen heroes that have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. This is just a very small token of my appreciation of their efforts. I got my whole family here today, so show my whole family what it means to honor those veterans. It's very important to me.
Well, it's important to remember those that came before us. They paved the path for us. I also came here to march for Sergeant Joseph A. Bouvier to show respect for him. He was killed in Afghanistan in 2010. There's been so much sacrifice and loss of life for the United States of America.
The Memorial Day ceremony was held at the base of the Liberty Memorial. Missouri Army National Guard recruiter, Staff Sergeant Clayton Fiddler, had the honor of participating in the placement of the wreath. The keynote address for the ceremony was given by retired General Richard Myers, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
When we have people that are willing to give up their own security and sometimes their lives for security in our lives. And that's why, one more time, I'll say, isn't it great to be an American? Aren't we lucky to live in this country?
When we return, we'll have a story about the first of the 138th Infantry Regiment conducting its annual training at Fort Chaffee, Arkansas.
For over 375 years, our nation's citizen soldiers have sacrificed, struggled, and triumphed at home and abroad. Through resolve, resilience, and readiness, our Army National Guard continues its proud legacy.
As citizen soldiers,
we are your next door neighbors.
We're your colleagues in schools, offices,
in factories,
in every corner of America.
The Army National Guard is hereby.
We have a stake in the safety and security of our communities.
After all,
that is where we live.
We serve in Afghanistan,
Iraq, the Balkans,
Africa, the Sinai, and the United States southwest border.
We are citizens.
We are soldiers.
We are your neighbors.
We are always ready.
We are always there.
The Army National Guard. Over 375 years of value and vigilance.
The first of the 138th Infantry Regiment conducted their annual training at the Fort Chaffee Joint Maneuver Training Center outside of Fort Smith, Arkansas. At over 64,000 acres of varied terrain, the center afforded the regiment with the training areas and ranges required to fire all of their weapon systems. The job of the infantry is to locate, close with, and destroy the enemy by fire and maneuver, or repel the enemy's assault by fire and close combat.
We generally train offensive in the infantry. We like what we call the violence of action. We like to take it to the enemy, and it's usually moving forward. And so this year, we're changing our focus a little bit, diving into the defensive so that we can be proficient in that. Not only does that help us as a battalion for federal missions overseas, it falls a little bit more in line with efforts within the state doing the state emergency duty when the governor calls upon us.
During state of emergency duty, the infantry can be tasked with securing infrastructure, protecting public property and public safety, as well as sandbagging, wellness checks, and distributing food and water.
Well, as an infantryman in the National Guard, we have a very historic role. We fought in all the major wars of the U.S., many times leading the charge, being the ones ready for the call, and also there for our local communities, of course.
A mock forward operating base, or FOB, was used to enhance the infantry's defensive training.
FOB Airborne is a small FOB, fits a company-sized element. We're conducting entry control point, guard tower, and quick reaction force maneuvers.
How to operate cohesively as a team, and also how to deal with guard shifts, relating positively with the locals, not assuming everybody is an enemy, learning how to interact with them, and then also how to deal with the threats that we may encounter.
FOBs are sometimes located near local communities and rely on local civilians to provide goods and services. Training cadre played the roles of civilians and enemy forces. In one of the training scenarios, a group of civilians approach an entry control point to the FOB.
Where'd you come from? Whole life here?
Yeah, whole life.
What do you do? Cool, we'll get you in there in just a little bit, okay? We just gotta get some people up here to help, okay?
All right, no problem. Thanks for the water.
There's a lot of emphasis on de-escalating situations.
Several times being deployed, American soldiers didn't act appropriately, and we want to completely eliminate that, and I feel we have, and we want to project a positive image of America.
Throughout the training, sand tables, or mock-ups of the battle space, were utilized by the infantrymen.
We're trying to get the roads mapped out.
A sand table creates a common operating picture for every single soldier. We all get on the same page in terms of what is in our area of operations and what is our understanding.
No matter what the mission might be, we train 360, so we know every different role within our squad, within our platoon. So no matter what the case, we're ready to rock and roll.
Active duty subject matter experts from 1st Army were on hand to advise and evaluate the annual training.
Know where you're at?
Know where your buddy's at. Know where the target's at.
My number one goal as a company commander during this annual training was to ensure that we had qualified, lethal squads.
The lethality of a squad centers on their ability to maneuver, employ their weapon systems effectively, and communicate. All of these were evaluated during the live fire exercises.
Move out! Alpha falling on Bravo, let's go!
The live fire exercises also develops trust, confidence, and teamwork in a squad.
Weapon safety are.
Doing an actual live fire with live ammunition is a unique situation that really cements and bonds the guys together. It really creates a great team.
The annual training also included weapons qualification for the regiment's snipers.
This is the M107. This is our 50 caliber sniper rifle. A lot of people call it the Barrett. It's manufactured by Barrett. This is the battalion's anti-material sniper asset. We can take this out with us on missions, and we have the ability to disable trucks, lightly armored vehicles, things like that.
Good. Love you.
So this is valuable experience to us as lower enlisted, and also for our leadership to understand how to utilize us best and how to plan for contingencies.
The 1st of the 138th Infantry Regiment stands ready for the call to support their state and federal missions.
When we return, we'll cover the joint annual training of 2 support battalions at Camp Clark in Nevada, Missouri.
I was here by myself, but I saw on the news that it was coming this direction, so went and hid in the closet. Just prayed and prayed and prayed that nothing was going to happen.
The epidemic outbreak of severe storms has crippled multiple regions throughout the United States. The National Guard's commitment to numerous communities throughout the nation stands strong.
We are looking at what remains of the apartment buildings. A lot of my stuff is like right in here, but my apartment was back over there. What used to be my home, basically. Gone, demolished. Left just in the nick of time. We pulled out 2 people right over here, a guy and a girl. The girl was fine. The guy had 2 broken ribs, a broken arm, and a broken leg. We ended up using a door to take him up to the triage unit.
But I made it through it, and I'm alive and well to talk about it, so I think I've been blessed.
The guardsman found my the pictures and gave them to my wife. She was really happy. And they also found the vessel. Pretty good.
There's been a lot of National Guard and been supplying food, you know, and water, and everybody's been great.
It's my hometown, so it's a kind of surreal feeling. You never would imagine you'd see it like this.
My granddaughters and I were sitting out on the front porch, and we saw the National Guard walking down our street, and then all of a sudden they just started picking up branches and sawing logs and putting tarps on the house, and I just feel so blessed, and I appreciate them so much. They'll never know how I feel.
For many National Guard members, the victims of these deadly tornadoes are friends, neighbors, and even family, adding another dimension to an already difficult mission and making a personal load for some even that much more to carry.
Members of Alpha Company, 311th Brigade Support Battalion,
recently took part in their annual training at Camp Clark in Nevada, Missouri. There were 3 main areas of focus for the training, and soldiers worked with equipment that pertains to their respective jobs. The motor transport operators, transportation experts, worked with the Enhanced Container Handling Units, or ECUs. The petroleum supply specialists set up a fuel support system point, or FSSP. The water treatment specialist worked with the Tactical Water Purification Systems, or TWIPs. Alpha Company recently helped their fellow citizens in High Ridge get clean drinking water after their water treatment facility was damaged during the historic winter flooding.
I've worked with the Guard in the past, and in this incident here, they've been absolutely a joy to work with. The response time is quick, working with them is quick, the professionalism is unreal, and they stay till the job's done.
Since the call could come at any moment, the Guardsmen have to be up to speed on their equipment.
The readiness of the Guard is critical to the state of Missouri. That's why we train and train, so we're there and we're ready. When the call comes, we've got sometimes less than 2 hours to get our gear and get to the armory, get our briefing, and start rolling.
We're always prepared for state of emergency duty and deployments, but when we actually get to bring the equipment out before those events happen, we get to see what problems have occurred over the winter months that we haven't been able to use the equipment and correct any equipment problems that we might have.
Water treatment specialists from Alpha Company, 935th Aviation Support Battalion, also participated in the TWIPs training.
We've worked with them a little bit. We got to work with them in High Ridge. That's the first time we'd ever talked to any of them. And then from that is where this spurred. Let's get together at AT and do a little co-training, since we both use the same piece of equipment.
Which is very important because they have skill sets that they may use more than we do, just based on their aviation mission, our BSB mission.
Being able to run the TWIPs, being able to operate that gives you the chance of being able to go out and help your community when they're in need.
It makes Missouri the go-to state for a natural disaster and people need water, and bottled water isn't the best option. It makes us the #1 state to come, hey, well, they've got 2 of them. But we get called about once a year for some sort of water purification.
The FSSP can hold up to 120,000 gallons of fuel. In a war zone or natural disaster, this is where trucks would come to fuel up. The soldiers of Alpha Company had someone experienced with this system in Specialist Tony Leo, who spent multiple deployments in Iraq working with the collapsible fuel systems.
You can break the system down fairly quickly and move it, and then put it back up fairly quickly as well. If it's a smaller operation, we could have 3 bags and it could be set up within 5 hours. Some tips would be to brief over the flow of the fuel, what direction your fuel is going. It is important for the bags to be a certain way, for the berm to be dug a certain way. So at the end of the bag, when you're emptying the bag out, all the fuel will flow towards the end coupler.
The motor transport operators had a chance to train on the newly acquired ECU systems. Safety is always a priority, and the soldiers have to go through the process 8 times, 4 without a container and 4 with a container, before being licensed on the system.
It's complicated. There's a lot of pinch points, a lot can go wrong, a lot of heavy equipment. Got a lot of little stuff you got to do in the right order.
It's a very touchy system. You just got to learn it, and you got to learn it slow.
For many of the members of Alpha Company 311th BSB, their unit is a family. There are bonds created during annual trainings such as this one. The camaraderie was evident when the soldiers took time to properly send off one of their own, Staff Sergeant Christopher Haynes. Sergeant Haynes moved on to the Camp Clark Training Center Command after spending 14 years with Alpha Company. He was presented with a guidon streamer.
So I'd like to present that to you so you can keep and maintain it. And just thank you for all your service. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
I made a lot of good friends, a lot of good colleagues, and people that have taken care of me, and I've taken care of them. I actually kind of miss them a little bit, but it's to help with my full-time career moving on.
Members of these 2 support companies know that they often have the opportunity to use their skill sets to help their fellow Missourians.
It's a wonderful experience, and it gives you a sense of pride because the civilian side doesn't always get to see what you do, but when you're deployed on a state level or a local level, they get to see you in action. They can take a lot more pride in what assets we have as a state as well.
Being in a brigade support battalion is great because we get to do everything. We don't get to be seen as much because we're maybe on the back end, but we're helping everyone else to make sure the mission gets done.
In our final story, we head back to Camp Clark to cover the annual training of my wing, the 131st Bomb Wing, where we focused on training for state emergency duty.
No time! No time!
When natural disaster strikes, the time to prepare is over. The key to having an effective Missouri Air National Guard is to have members ready to go whenever an emergency happens. Citizen airmen from the 131st Bomb Wing spent 2 weeks at Camp Clark, Missouri, training for their state mission. The training scenarios are quite realistic at Camp Clark. The 131st Medical Group employed moulage makeup techniques to create realistic injuries to acting victims. The disaster scenario was an EF5 tornado.
Our National Guardsmen in the 131st and the Jefferson Barracks units, we teach them how to convoy into scenarios and how to get out to triage, be able to walk in, identify, treat, save the lives, get them to a staging area or to the appropriate healthcare facilities.
Once you truly get into it, the stuff just clicks, you're putting it into action, you have teammates helping you out, you know what to do, the goal's right in front of you, move on to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. It clicks together pretty well.
The point of having this compared to like PowerPoints or just walkthrough things is the realism factor of going through the moulage enables them to be here all week listening to the training and then to see all their little parts. But once they actually roll into the scene and they actually see injured people, they experience the chaos, the blood, the debris, the screaming. You see a sense of panic set in for them. It's a lot different when they're taking care of somebody screaming and bleeding.
The 239th Combat Communications Squadron deployed from Jefferson Barracks Air National Guard Base in St. Louis and set up communications for the camp. The 239th is a key player in setting up communications for responders during state emergency duty, including the historic Missouri flooding over the 2016 New Year.
That's everything. And what we have here behind me is an omnidirectional antenna. It basically shoots data out in all directions up to about 200 feet. This can be deployed anywhere, anytime, or in any state emergency situation. This can be deployed there if there's no coverage or if their network's saturated.
In a hose. Is there a belt?
This is the third year that the 131st has been attending Camp Clark. It was started by the 131st Maintenance Group, which introduced the camp in 2014. Since then, it has taken off with new training scenarios and elements added each year.
This is my first time. It's been great. It really has. I got to see a lot of people from my old squadron, so that was really nice just to hang out and then build bonds with my new squadron, the 239th. So it's been really good.
From the planners all the way to the execution, there were tons of folks who tend to see it and then execute it. The team has just done a phenomenal job.
Tech Sergeant Elise Rich, Camp Clark, Nevada, Missouri.
It is now my honor to introduce the commander of the Missouri National Guard, the Adjutant General, Major General Steve Danner.
Thank you, Tech Sergeant Swanson, and thank you, viewers, for watching this episode of MoGuard TV. One of our strategic goals is to champion a culture of readiness. We achieve this goal by planning effective annual training. As we saw in this episode, annual training is a time to hone skills and build effective teamwork. The Missouri National Guard has a long, proud history of serving the state of Missouri and our nation. During this season of patriotic holidays like Armed Forces Day, Memorial Day, and the 4th of July, we remember the sacrifice of our fallen service members and their families. Thanks to those service members and supporters featured in this program who remind us how to honor their memory. Well, that's it for this episode of MoGuard TV. On behalf of Governor Jay Nixon and our nearly 12,000 Missouri Guardsmen, thank you for your support.